Hello guys, and welcome back to another chat style video. Today we're going to be talking about 11 old-fashioned tips for entertaining that will add a lot of charm to your gatherings. This is on my radar because it was a New Year's resolution that I had, and it is April, it's almost May, and I haven't had one dinner party yet. I realized at the very beginning of the year that last year I only had people over a handful of times for the entire year, with the exception of kids coming over to swim, but I don't count that as entertaining. So what I wanted to do was to start having more formal dinners or things like brunches or teas, things like that where I bring people in more often. And I started researching a little bit and also talking to my uncle who tells me about my grandmother. She was apparently a great entertainer. She had people over 2 to 3 times a week in her home. And I actually started to bring out the bar cart. I have a bar cart here that she used when she would entertain, and he tells me she would get all the drinks, different cocktails together, and she would serve them tableside and ask people what they would like, make them there on the spot. And that was part of what she would do as a regular routine in her home for entertaining. And you do not need a bar cart to make your guests feel special or welcome, but it is a very cute idea, and it's obviously a very vintage idea, because how many times has this happened in anybody's home that you've been invited to? I think entertaining itself needs to be revived, and I know a lot of people still entertain, but they don't seem to do it near as much as the older generation did. They seem to have had an art with doing this, and like I said, my grandma did this 2 to 3 times a week, which I cannot even imagine the amount of work that went into that. But I suppose that when you get into a habit of doing something, it just becomes a part of your life. And so I think it's worth reviving this, even if it's only once in a while. I am an introverted person, and that means that I could go a couple of weeks without even calling a friend because I get so busy in my life. I am the type of person that can be dropped off on an island somewhere with a couple of essentials, and I can keep myself occupied for weeks. And though that's great to love your own company, sometimes we have to snap out of that, snap out of the routine, and make sure that we're making deposits into our friendships and relationships in our life. I share a lot of homemaking and talk a lot about ways to create an environment that we thrive in and that we love. And I just think that entertaining adds another layer to enjoyment to our homes. So I think it's a great topic to discuss. Now, this list is a mixture of tips that my uncle shared with me that my grandma would do, and other vintage or old-fashioned tips that I found online that I made a list and compiled. I will leave a link to the blog post that shares these 11 tips with you in the description box below, so that way you have something to refer back to if and when you plan your next gathering. Let's go back to that bar cart that my grandmother had and would use to entertain. Instead of a bar cart, why not a great punch bowl, and making an old-fashioned, delicious, fruity punch to set out for people to serve themselves. Not only does this make it easier for you as the hostess, but it's a really cute old-fashioned thing to have. And if you could thrift a great punch bowl with cups at a thrift shop, even better. This next one I love, and I'm gonna do at my next gathering, is to send out a paper invitation. I mean, when do you get paper invitations aside from a child's birthday party or a wedding in your life? A couple of years back, a friend of mine sent me out of the blue a paper invitation for a ladies' tea party. And it just made the whole event seem a little bit more formal and a little bit more exciting to get that in the mail. So of course we went, had a great time. It stood out to me among all the gatherings I have been invited to. Now, if you do send out a paper invitation, this one is super cute to me because we don't do this often, and that is to dress up. Asking people to dress up a little bit for the party, it kind of makes things a little bit more formal and fancy and fun, and it makes it more of an occasion. Don't be afraid to ask people to dress up a little bit, because a lot of times people are looking for reasons to get out of the house, dress up. So it's something out of the ordinary that you're offering, and it is obviously old-fashioned. People used to dress for dinner. For the last couple of years, I've been doing a dinner at my house and where we play a game and we have a meal. And that to me is my type of birthday party. I love to just hang out with friends, have a nice dinner, and play a game. And we play things like charades. For the last couple of years, we played poker, but there are all sorts of fun interactive games that you can find that are free online. and just have that ready to go. You could play it before the meal to break the ice, or you could play it during the meal or even after. Set the table at your gatherings. It really does set and create an environment around the meal that you're serving. You guys know that I love to set the table every single day. It's right here behind me. You see that I have a tablecloth already and a flower arrangement, but just putting a flower arrangement, using a linen cloth, and use the best dishes that you have. It does make a difference. This one's a little bit extra formal, but I have done this once or twice, and I do have some place cards still. But if you're serving a group of, I would say, 5 or more, maybe 6 or more, put place cards out. Make it a little bit more fancy. And if they're handwritten, it's even better. But if you're like me, I'm a lefty, and so my handwriting is not that great. I have to really concentrate. There are pre-made ones or ones that you can personalize on Amazon. I'll leave a link for in the description box below if you're looking to get some place cards that are printed for you. But I have these ones that I use, and it really does create a little bit more of a fancy formal feel for people. My grandma always served cake and coffee directly after a meal. And I know a lot of people still do this, but I don't think they do it nearly as much, because a lot of the dinner parties I have gone to in the last few years did not do this whatsoever. They would put a dessert out, maybe buffet style, in the other room for people to self-serve, but serving the cake and coffee directly at the table, that creates a little bit more charm and formality to your dinner party, and I just think it's such a cute idea. Serving something that is homemade. Now, the whole meal doesn't have to be homemade, of course. A lot of people can go to the store and grab something ready-made and put it on a nice bowl or serving platter. That's completely okay. But serving something homemade, like a cake or a pie or something like that, it just tells your guests that you put a little extra effort into them coming. This one I have not done myself, but I do put a playlist on when people come into my home. It creates an environment around the meal. But I read this tip online, and it was to play records for your guests. So now I'm in search of a record player. I think that is so cute to put on a record player and just have that going during your meal. I know not everybody has a record player. I don't have a record player, but if you do have one or have access to one, consider doing it. I think it's a really cute and charming tip. All right, number 11. Sending a thank you card after the gathering. If you could do this handwritten, it's nicer, but again, if you don't have the best handwriting, that's okay. They have pre-personalized ones that you could get. Vistaprint has them, Amazon has them. There's a lot of great places that have them. Or just writing a short something is very nice to do, and it's very old-fashioned, and I think it creates a charm around the event, and it's a nice gesture. I hope that these tips help you. I hope they motivate you and inspire you to have more gatherings in your home. And if you're somebody nervous about hosting, the last thing I want to say is, I know a lot of times we get caught up in the way our home looks around serving a meal itself. Simplify your meals, and don't worry about the paint color on your walls or the fact that you don't have trim or something in a room. Don't pay attention to these small details. Nobody cares. Your friends should love you, and those are the people that you should be inviting over for a great time. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Have a great week ahead, and I'll see you guys on the next one.